The roast chicken sat cold on the table, but nobody seemed to care. My mother, Linda Monroe, poured wine into mismatched glasses with her practiced smile, like this whole gathering was spontaneous, unplanned. My father, Richard, carved the meat with surgical precision, each slice perfectly arranged like he was performing for an audience. My cousin Jessica laughed too loud at something Uncle Tom said. Briana, my younger sister, giggled and twirled her hair like she was 16 again. No one looked at me. That had become normal. Then my father said it, casual as ordering coffee. "We were thinking maybe Briana could stay with you for a while, just until she finds her footing." My mother added, sipping her wine, "She's already been there a few days. Might as well make it official." I let the silence stretch, then spoke. "Funny thing, I haven't even lived there for 6 weeks." Every fork froze mid-air. Let me take you back. 6 weeks earlier, my apartment in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood still felt like mine. Neutral walls, soft lighting, and the kind of quiet you fight for when you're 27 and building a tech career from scratch. I'd earned that silence with ramen dinners and 4 in the morning coding contracts, teaching myself Python while other people were out living their 20s. Then came the knock, almost midnight on a Tuesday. I opened the door to find Briana. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, breath hitching between sobs, arms overflowing with 3 chaotic bags and a 4th slung over her shoulder like she was checking into a resort. "Zach cheated on me," she announced without even saying hello. "Can you believe it?" I didn't answer. I just stepped aside. "I just need a few days," she added quickly. "Just to breathe." "Of course," I said, because that's what I always did. I was the older sister, the reliable one, the person who didn't let family sleep in their cars or cry alone in parking lots. By day 2, she'd moved into my bedroom without asking. She called my sheets sad beige and replaced them with pink floral ones that smelled like cheap laundry detergent. Her curling iron claimed the bathroom counter, her phone charger plugged into my nightstand. I found myself on the couch, laptop balanced on my knees, pretending I didn't feel displaced in my own home. Then came the voices, friends I'd never met, laughter echoing down the hallway at 2 in the morning, wine glasses abandoned on counters, high heels scattered by the front door like breadcrumbs marking territory. "This space is no longer yours." By the end of week 1, she threw a party. It was Friday. I had a Zoom pitch scheduled, one that could secure me a senior lead role on an artificial intelligence project I'd been quietly chasing for 6 months. I'd rehearsed my presentation 40 times, polished every slide, double-checked every visual element. I asked her just once, "Please keep it quiet until noon." She promised. Instead, I logged into my meeting with Cardi B blasting from the kitchen and someone yelling body shots directly behind my closed door. The bass rattled my desk. My screen froze on the worst possible frame. Me, with my face buried in my hands, looking completely unprofessional. The call dropped. When I reconnected, it was over. No contract. No follow-up email. Just silence. That night, I found Briana in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, laughing at some video. "Briana, this isn't working," I said, keeping my voice measured, calm. "I need you to find somewhere else to stay." She didn't even look up. "God, you're always so dramatic." I stared at her. "You just cost me a $20,000 contract." She rolled her eyes like I'd told her I stubbed my toe. "Well, maybe they didn't want someone who can't even control her own apartment." Right there, I saw it. Not just who she was, but what she thought of me. I was the doormat, the background character, the person whose life didn't matter because I never made it matter loud enough. I didn't yell. I didn't slam doors. I didn't even cry. That night, I called my parents. My father, Richard, answered on the second ring. "She's going through a lot right now, Catherine. Breakups are messy." "She's costing me my career," I said. He sighed. "You know how she is." I tried my mother next. Her voice was light, almost sing-song. "She's your sister. She just needs time. You've always been so good at managing things." That was it. No one asked what I needed. No one asked if I was okay. I stood by the kitchen window for a long time, watching the Seattle rain streak down the glass. Outside, a man walked his dog. A bus hummed past, its windows glowing yellow against the gray evening. The world kept moving. Mine had stopped. I packed a single bag, laptop, wallet, charger, one sweater. I left my key on the counter next to an empty wine glass I hadn't used. No note. No goodbye. The door closed behind me without a sound. Alex, a friend from college who owed me nothing but offered everything, had a couch in his Capitol Hill studio and zero judgment. That was enough. I told him it would be a few days. I stopped counting after that. The days passed. 1, then 3, then 10. 3 weeks became 4, then 5, then 6. Not a single text, not a single missed call, not even a passive-aggressive emoji from my mother asking where I was. Just silence. It didn't sting the way I expected. It didn't feel like exile or abandonment in the dramatic sense. It felt like proof. Evidence of something I'd always suspected but never wanted to believe. They didn't notice I was gone. Not because I wasn't loved, necessarily, but because I had always been the one who didn't need checking on. The one who handled things. The one who made space for other people's chaos and quietly swept up around the edges. And maybe after so many years of being the strong one, I'd disappeared right in front of them, and they'd taught themselves not to see it. Alex didn't ask questions. That's what I appreciated most. He worked remotely for a tech startup, kept his space clean, and understood the value of companionable silence. When I told him I was between things, he just nodded and handed me a spare pillow. I expected guilt to come. I expected to miss something, someone, some piece of the life I'd left behind. But the guilt never arrived. The only thing I'd been missing was peace, and now I had it. 3 weeks in, I started counting backward. No texts, no calls, no "where are you" from my mother, even though we usually talked every Sunday. No check-in from Richard, even though he had access to my calendar and knew I never missed family events. Not even Briana, living rent-free in my apartment, bothered to ask why I hadn't come home. Silence like that doesn't hurt when you've already been hearing its echo for years. It just confirms what's been humming beneath everything. I was the invisible daughter, the footnote in the family story. Briana was the storm everyone gathered around to witness. I was the shelter no one thought to thank. The patterns had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them clearly. Briana got caught shoplifting makeup from a drugstore when she was 17. My father blamed the store for profiling. I graduated high school with straight A's in calculus and physics. He told me to push harder and asked why I wasn't valedictorian. I had 0 student debt by 24, paid for school with double shifts at a campus tech lab, taught myself Python before it became trendy. And no one came to my college graduation. They missed it. My mother said she had a migraine. My father had a work thing. Briana didn't even respond to the invitation. Everything I'd built had come without applause, without witnesses. And maybe I'd accepted that, mistaking the absence of praise for strength, mistaking their silence for quiet pride. But 6 weeks without a single message? That wasn't strength. That was a razor, cutting clean through every lie I'd told myself about mattering. One Thursday afternoon in late autumn, when the Seattle sky hung low and heavy with rain, I went back to the apartment. Just once. I didn't knock. The key was still on my ring, cold and familiar in my hand. Briana wasn't home. Her pink sneakers sat by the door, caked with mud. A trail of glittered makeup bags and crumpled shopping receipts led through the hallway like evidence at a crime scene. Her perfume hung thick in the air, sickly sweet, floral and fake. It smelled like lies. I walked through slowly, like I was touring a museum of my own life, cataloging what had been erased. My clothes were gone. My guitar, a mahogany acoustic I'd bought with my first freelance bonus, was gone. My office desk had been shoved into the hallway, replaced by a ring light, a cheap tripod, and a vinyl backdrop that read "Breeze Place" in looping cursive letters. The living room wasn't borrowed anymore. It was owned, conquered, rebranded. I opened the drawer in my bedroom where I kept small valuables. My grandmother's watch, a delicate silver piece she'd given me before she passed, was missing. The space where it had rested for 3 years was empty. just dust and the faint outline of its shape. I stood there for a long time, staring at that empty space, feeling something harden inside me. Before I left, I placed a small motion-detecting camera behind the bookshelf. Silent, invisible, just like I'd been. Then I locked the door behind me for the last time. 3 days later, sitting on Alex's couch with my laptop balanced on my knees and rain drumming against the window, I downloaded the first batch of footage. It was worse than I'd imagined. Briana didn't just treat my apartment like a crash pad. She treated it like a brand, a stage, a product to monetize. My bookshelf had been rearranged into a backdrop for photos. My coffee table was now a prop in her videos. My walls glowed with LED strip lights that turned everything pink and artificial, filtering reality into something fake and sellable. She threw parties. She filmed sponsored skincare routines using my bathroom mirror. She posed for Instagram reels in outfits I'd never seen her wear, captioning them with things like "new place, new energy" and "main character vibes." But that wasn't the worst of it. She started selling my things. I watched her lift my guitar, that mahogany acoustic I'd saved for months to buy, and pose with it like it was hers. She angled it just right for the camera, smiled that practiced influencer smile, then tucked it into a cardboard box. I heard her voice through the laptop speaker, talking to someone on the phone. "Yeah, it's basically new. He barely touched it. I'll throw in the stand for an extra 20. She smiled as a stranger handed her cash at the door. Next came the gaming monitor I'd worked 6 months of overtime to afford. Then my noise-canceling headphones, my Bluetooth speaker, all of it boxed up, sold off, converted into her spending money. My grandmother's watch never appeared on camera, but I saw her rifling through my bedroom drawer one afternoon, lifting something small and silver, examining it under the light, then slipping it into her purse without a second glance. Then came the envelope. A neighbor had filed a complaint with the building's homeowner association about her parties. Too much noise, too many strangers in the hallways, trash left outside the door. Briana received the letter and forged a response under my name. I watched the footage, zooming in on the page. Same slant in the capital R. Same curl in the lowercase e. She'd practiced my handwriting, copied my signature with ease, and signed off like it meant nothing. It took everything in me not to slam the laptop shut. Instead, I did what I'd learned to do best. I stayed calm. I stayed methodical. I time-stamped each clip. I saved them into a password-protected shared drive. I compiled a list of every missing item with receipts, photos, and approximate value. Then I wrote a simple professional email to Mr. Jenkins, my landlord. "Dear Mr. Jenkins, I am writing to inform you that my apartment has been unlawfully occupied for the past 6 weeks. I have not been living there. I did not give permission for anyone to stay. I did not sign any agreements or authorize any guests. Attached, you will find video evidence, timestamps, and documentation of property theft and lease violations. I request immediate action. Sincerely, Catherine Monroe." I didn't hear back right away, but 1 week later, a reply arrived. "Miss Monroe, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Your sister has been notified and is required to vacate the premises immediately. No further negotiation will be entertained." That night, my phone exploded. Briana's name lit up the screen, then my mother's, then my father's. Missed call, voicemail. Text after text, all caps, frantic and furious. "You ruined my life. You're so petty. You've always been jealous." I didn't read them. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. I just blocked them. Every number, every email address, every social media handle. Gone. No more reaching in. No more demands wrapped in concern. No more guilt disguised as love. The only voice they'd hear from me now would be backed by facts, by footage, by legal boundaries. Because silence, when it's intentional, isn't weakness. It's power. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to explain myself or justify my choices or beg them to understand. They had finally noticed my absence, but only because something they assumed was theirs had been taken away. Not me. Not my well-being. Just access. Just convenience. And that told me everything I needed to know. 2 days later, Briana was officially evicted. She didn't go quietly, but she went, and I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. I felt free. Back at the dinner table, no one spoke after I said it. I haven't even lived there for 6 weeks. The words just hung there, suspended above the cold chicken and half-full wine glasses like smoke after a small explosion. Briana's fork hovered in midair, a piece of asparagus trembling on the tines. My mother blinked hard, setting her wine glass down with a soft clink. "Wait, what?" she asked. I didn't rush. I let the question breathe. "I've been gone for 6 weeks," I said. "I moved out the night she threw that party, the one with the body shots and the broken lamp." My father set down his carving knife. "That's not, Catherine. No one knew." "That's exactly the point," I said. "No one noticed." Briana laughed under her breath, then stopped abruptly when she saw my face. I reached into my coat pocket and placed a sealed manila envelope onto the tablecloth. The sound it made was soft, but somehow louder than anything else in the room. "What's that?" my mother asked. "Evidence," I said. "Footage, screenshots, copies of the complaint she signed with my name. A full list of the items she sold, including receipts and serial numbers." Briana's face went flat. "You were spying on me." "No," I said, my voice even, calm. "I was protecting what I built." Uncle Tom glanced nervously between me and the envelope, unsure whether to laugh or leave. "You got her kicked out," my mother said, her voice tight, accusatory. I looked at her, really looked at her. "I sent evidence to my landlord. He handled it. She was never on the lease. She had no right to be there." "You could have told us," Richard said. "You could have warned her." "You all made decisions about my home without me," I replied. "She was already living there before you even asked, and not one of you noticed I wasn't." My cousin Jessica furrowed her brow. "Wait, you seriously weren't living there?" I turned to Briana. "You moved in. You trashed the place. You threw parties. You sold my things. You forged my name on legal documents, and none of you even thought to check if I was okay." Briana's voice cracked. "You're making a scene." "No," I said, standing slowly, deliberately. "I'm making a boundary." My mother started to rise. "Catherine, please." But I was already walking toward the door. Behind me, chairs creaked. Silverware clinked against china. The room, once filled with easy laughter, folded into something brittle and cold. I paused at the threshold, hand on the door frame. "This family only checks in when they need something," I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I was gone for 6 weeks, and all anyone asked me tonight was if Briana could stay longer. Then I left them there, choking on the silence they had taught me to live in. Briana was officially evicted 2 days later. Mr. Jenkins didn't care about her tears or her excuses. The footage spoke louder than anything she could say. She texted me for days. Blocks of rage, tearful voicemails, threats. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, I filed a police report for the missing items. I submitted the footage and receipts to my renter's insurance. They opened a claim within 48 hours. Briana's full legal name was now attached to an active theft investigation in King County, Washington. I didn't do it to destroy her. I did it to draw a line she'd crossed too many times. The ripple effects came fast. Someone, maybe from the landlord's office, tipped off the boutique in Belltown where she worked part-time. 2 days later, she was let go. Her Instagram, once full of brunch photos and girl boss captions, went dark. Comments disappeared. The curated version of herself cracked under the weight of what she'd actually done. Then my mother left a voicemail. Her voice was low, tired. "She's your sister, Catherine. You've always been the strong one. Can't you just fix this quietly?" I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her a screenshot. One from Briana's group chat from the week she first moved in. "He's such a loser. Doesn't even know I basically own his apartment now. Whatever. He'll probably thank me for giving it some life." Underneath, I wrote one line. "This is who you protected." She never responded. It was my father who finally called, weeks later. His voice cracked around the edges. "Your mother's not doing well," he said. You should come home. I didn't ask questions. I booked a flight from Seattle to Sacramento, not because I missed them, not because I wanted closure, but because I needed to see her once more before I shut that door for good. When I stepped into the house, nothing had changed. Same floral wallpaper, same chipped paint on the hallway trim, same dusty photos of Briana on every shelf. And Briana was there, sitting on the couch, eating chips, watching reality television like she hadn't stolen a year of my life. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, stranger." I didn't answer. I looked down the hallway. The bedroom door was slightly open. I could see a sliver of my mother's figure beneath the blanket, small and pale. Briana laughed nervously. "Aren't you going to come say hi?" I stepped back toward the door. "No," I said, quiet, steady. I already said everything I needed to. Her smile fell. "You're still holding a grudge? Grow up, Catherine." I turned to my father. He hadn't said a word since I arrived. "Tell her I said goodbye," I said. Then I paused. For real this time. And I walked out. No slamming doors, no speeches. Just the sound of my footsteps leaving the place where I had waited too long to be seen. Because closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's just a closed door. I wrote them one final letter. It wasn't angry. It wasn't sharp. It was just honest. "Dear Mom and Dad, for years I begged for respect, quietly. I let my voice drown beneath Briana's chaos, beneath your excuses. You only saw me when I was useful. You told me to be the bigger person so often, I started believing being small was my purpose. You chose noise over peace. You applauded the storm while ignoring the shelter. When she lied, you defended her. When I broke, you told me to hold it together. But now I choose myself. I'm not bitter. I'm done. This isn't punishment, it's preservation. I'm building a life where my worth doesn't have to scream to be seen. Catherine." No return address, no signature flourish, just truth. I didn't leave to be missed. I left so they'd stop pretending I was ever really there. Some of us learn too late that silence isn't kindness. It's permission. That being the strong one only means they think you'll never walk away. But I did. And now, the only seat I fill is mine. If you've ever been the one they forgot to notice, if your absence spoke louder than your cries ever did, you don't need to explain yourself at all. Just leave a dot in the comments, a single one to say, "I was here, I saw this, I understand." And if this story resonated with you, share your thoughts below. Subscribe for more stories about finding your voice when the world tries to silence it, because you're not alone, and your story matters even when they made you believe it didn't.
Everyone was smiling, wine glasses clinking, candles flickering, waiters sweeping by in smooth choreography, when I stood up and said, "I've been promoted to Director of Operations." Applause. Cheers. My manager beamed. My husband squeezed my hand. Then, exactly 3 seconds later, just like I knew she would, my sister gasped, clutched her stomach, and crumpled dramatically onto the floor. "Oh God, not again," someone whispered. Chaos erupted. Chairs scraped. A waiter dropped a glass. My mom shouted for water. My dad was already unbuttoning his shirt collar like he might faint in sympathy. And me? I calmly reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and connected it to the Bluetooth speaker. "Before we call the ambulance," I said, standing slowly, "I think it's time we all watched this." The room froze. I tapped play, and there she was, 20 minutes earlier, in the parking lot, laughing with her boyfriend, clutching her iced latte and saying, "As soon as she announces it, I'm going down," like fully collapsing. "It'll steal the spotlight for the rest of the night. Just wait." My name is Riley, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever been gaslit so many times, you started second-guessing your own joy? Have you ever dimmed your own light out of guilt for someone else's theatrics? I used to feel sorry for her. Her mystery illness. The attention. The constant emergencies that only seemed to strike when I was finally winning. But not anymore. This time, I came prepared. Because some sisters fake illness. And some sisters record receipts. My sister was still writhing on the floor when the video ended. Nobody clapped. Nobody gasped. They just stared, like they were finally seeing the truth they'd ignored for years. Her eyes fluttered open. Wow, what is this? Reality, I said. Welcome to it. And while everyone stood there, too stunned to speak, I sat back down, took a sip of champagne, smiled at my promotion cake. Because the only thing sweeter than success is serving it cold. Silence thickened around us like fog. My sister blinked, still sprawled dramatically on the floor, like she forgot how legs work. But the spotlight she craved had shifted, hard. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. No tears now. No pity. Just disgust. The video had ended only seconds ago, but it rang louder than any scream she could fake. She sat up slowly, brushing imaginary dust from her designer blouse, voice trembling. I was joking, she stammered. You seriously recorded me? That's messed up, Riley. No, I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. What's messed up is faking a collapse every time I succeed. My mother stepped forward, still clutching the napkin she'd grabbed in the panic. Honey, was that really? Yes, Mom, I said. That was 5 minutes before dinner, right before she parked in a handicapped spot she doesn't need and smiled the whole way in. My sister's boyfriend looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. He was in the video, too. Laughing. Encouraging it. The drama's part of her charm, he'd said. You've got to time it just right. She tried to stand, wobbling like she was still in character. People here know I've been dealing with chronic issues for years, she said, voice tightening. Not everything is about you. I laughed then. Not bitter. Just done. You're right, I said. Tonight wasn't supposed to be about you, but you made sure it was. I turned to the table of executives from my company, men and women who had watched the whole scene with narrowed eyes. My boss raised his glass and said quietly, to Riley, for always coming prepared. A few people chuckled. My sister's face turned white, because for once, her drama hadn't stolen the spotlight. It had handed it to me. She stormed out 5 minutes later, dragging her humiliated boyfriend behind her like a broken prop. And the moment the door closed behind them, the room relaxed. Laughter returned. Wine poured. And my father, quiet and skeptical for years, clinked his glass to mine and said, I'm sorry we let her do that to you for so long. I nodded, holding back tears, because it was the first time someone in the family finally said it. But this was just the start. She didn't know it yet, but that video was only one of many. She blocked me the next morning. Text, social, even email. A full digital tantrum, exactly what I expected from someone whose favorite trick just went up in flames. But blocking me wouldn't stop what came next, because the video had done more than expose her. It unlocked something. I started getting messages, quiet ones, private ones, from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins, childhood friends, even one of her ex-boyfriends. All of them saying the same thing. I saw the clip. I've been waiting for someone to finally call her out. They told me stories. So many stories. How she faked a panic attack at someone's baby shower because the attention was off her. How she pretended to faint at grandma's memorial because I was asked to read the eulogy. How she once told an old friend's fiancé that she had early signs of MS, just to keep him from proposing. I sat on my couch, scrolling through messages, each one peeling back another layer. And with each one, I stopped feeling like the villain in her drama. I started feeling like the historian. And I was done letting her write the script. I compiled the messages, the stories, the screenshots. Not to post, not to shame, but to protect myself, because I knew her next move wouldn't be apology. It would be retaliation. And sure enough, 3 days later, I got the call. It was my mother. Riley, your sister's telling everyone you doctored the video, that it was fake. I closed my eyes, let the heat rise, then fall. Of course she was. The truth didn't work in her world, so she bent it until people believed they imagined what they saw. Do you believe her? I asked quietly. My mother paused. Then no, not anymore. That silence between us? That was 20 years of being told I was too sensitive. And it finally broke. Good, I said. because I've got more where that came from. She gasped. Riley, are you going to ruin her? I looked at the folder of files on my desk. The carefully saved memories of chaos I didn't create, but was always asked to clean up. No, I said. I'm not going to ruin her. I'm going to let her ruin herself, this time, in front of everyone. It didn't take long for her version of the story to spread. She edited it. She ambushed me. She's always been jealous. I watched it happen in real time, group chats lighting up, distant relatives suddenly liking her sad little cryptic posts, old friends sliding back into her corner like she hadn't burned them years ago. But this time, no one called to ask me for my side, because I'd already shown it, on video, on record, with proof. And her tantrum wasn't getting the reaction she was used to. No sympathy, no flowers, just silence, which made her spiral. She texted my dad next. I'm worried about Riley. This obsession with hurting me isn't normal. He sent me a screenshot. She always flips it like this, he wrote. You okay? I replied, I'm not hurting her. She's just finally feeling what truth sounds like. And I was more than okay. I was focused. Because I had a plan. I'd already been contacted by a wellness podcast, one that focused on mental health and family dynamics. They saw the video. They saw the comments. And they wanted me. Not for drama. For truth. Talk about how people like your sister use illness as currency, the host said on the call. Your story resonates. You're not alone. And I wasn't. Hundreds of women had DM'd me since the dinner. Each one saying the same thing. My sister did this too. My mom still makes me apologize. I thought I was crazy. So I said yes. And when the episode aired, I told everything. The fake fainting at my scholarship banquet. The panic attacks that only happened when I was thriving. The way my family always said, just let her have this, Riley. Don't make a scene. But this time, I made the scene. Not with screaming. Not with revenge. With truth. And the best part? At the end of the episode, the host asked, what would you say to your sister if she were listening right now? I paused. Then said, I don't need you to change. I just need you to know I won't bleed quietly for you anymore. And when that clip went viral, she finally stopped trying to play the victim. Because the internet doesn't forget. And neither do little sisters who learn to carry receipts instead of resentment. I knew she'd show up eventually. And when she did, it wasn't with flowers. It was with fury. She cornered me outside a bookstore downtown, of all places. I'd just finished signing copies of the podcast feature that had been published as an essay. The line had stretched around the block. She waited until the last person left. Riley, she hissed, sunglasses still on, even though the sky was overcast. You need to stop this. I looked at her. Really looked. She was unraveling. Hair pulled too tight. Lipstick smudged. Designer tote hanging off her arm like a costume that didn't fit anymore. I haven't said your name once, I said. You're the one who keeps confirming it's about you. Don't play innocent. You humiliated me in front of our entire family. No, I said, folding my arms. You humiliated yourself. I just played back the footage. She stepped closer. You think you're the hero now? Just because you got lucky with a recording? Not lucky, I said, voice even. Prepared. She scoffed. You've always been so obsessed with control. You think this makes you powerful. I took a deep breath. And then said the thing I never thought I'd say out loud. I don't want power over you. I just don't want to live under you anymore. She blinked. For the first time, her mouth didn't move. Because it wasn't about the video. Or the dinner. Or the podcast. It was about finally saying the thing I swallowed for years. That her chaos wasn't my responsibility. That her pain wasn't a free pass to erase mine. That I could love her from a distance she couldn't damage me from. You ruined our family, she whispered. No, I said. I just refuse to let you keep ruining me. She didn't have a comeback. She turned. Walked away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't chase her. Because healing isn't a speech. It's a boundary. And mine was finally cemented. That night, I tucked my phone into a drawer. Lit a candle. sat down with tea. No recording, no evidence, no audience, just peace. The kind that doesn't need proof. Because my story was no longer about exposing her.
It was about reclaiming me.
It was my mother who called next. Voice tight, tone rehearsed. "Riley," she said, "can we talk? Just us." I almost didn't answer. But some part of me, the child still waiting to be seen, still picked up. "She didn't waste time. Your sister's struggling. She's not leaving the house. She feels targeted." I closed my eyes, counted to 3. Mom, she was the target of her own arrow.
She sighed.
"You've made your point," she said, like this was some game we were playing. "Do you want to lose your family over this?" There it was. Not "I'm sorry we let her steal from your life." Not "I wish we'd protected your joy." Just the usual. "Your boundary is the problem." I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. "You think I want to lose my family?" I said. "Do you know how many times I've dimmed myself to keep this fragile thing stitched together?" "Riley, it's not that simple." "Yes, Mom, it is. Every time I got a win, she found a way to collapse into it. Every
Time. And you all told me to understand. To share.
to be kind." Silence. "Did you ever once tell her to stop?" She didn't answer. So I kept going. "She's not the victim here. She just hates that I finally refused to play the understudy in her one-woman tragedy." More silence. Then, quietly, she said, "She doesn't know who you are anymore." I smiled.
Good.
That means I've finally changed. Because for the first time, I wasn't begging to be heard. I was letting them sit in their own echo chamber and figure it out without me. We ended the call politely. But that night, I received a message from my cousin. A screenshot of a group chat I'd never been in. The family thread. My sister had left it. My mother had gone quiet. And someone had written, "Honestly, Riley was right." 3 words. Nothing flashy. But they landed harder than any spotlight. I closed the message. Sat with it. Not in triumph. In truth. Because I wasn't trying to destroy my sister. I just stopped letting her destroy me quietly. It happened on a Wednesday. I was walking out of a community center, fresh from a panel on emotional boundaries, when I saw the note tucked under my windshield. Folded in half. No name. Just one sentence. "I'm sorry. I don't know who I am without being the one who hurts you." I knew the handwriting. My sister slanted, chaotic loops, beautiful, desperate, messy, just like her. I stared at it. Not with anger, but with a stillness that comes when the storm finally runs out of things to throw. Because I realized that line wasn't a trap. It was a confession. She had built her identity on shadowing mine, collapsing when I rose, grieving when I thrived, suffocating me softly with 1,000 tiny crises no one dared question.
And now?
There was nothing left for her to pull from, because I'd cut the cord. I didn't text her. I didn't post it. I didn't even tell my mother. I just folded it once more and dropped it into my desk drawer next to the old family photos I used to keep out of guilt. Later that night, I sat with my daughter on the couch, helping her practice a speech for school. "What's it about?" I asked. "Standing up for yourself," she said. "Even if it makes people uncomfortable." I smiled. "That's a powerful thing," I said.
She grinned.
"I learned it from you." And that was the moment I knew. The cycle had broken. Because I didn't just protect my own joy. I taught the next version of me how to own hers. Across town, I imagined my sister staring at her screen, watching her likes dry up, her messages slow down, her identity, wrapped in drama, peeling off, layer by layer. But I didn't feel pity. I felt peace. Because I wasn't winning in her game. I'd left the table. And the life I was building now, it didn't need a villain. It just needed truth. The final shift wasn't loud. There was no confrontation, no screaming match, no late-night door pounding like in the past. Just a quiet, irreversible moment. A family wedding. Not hers this time. Our cousins. She came alone, sat in the back, didn't make a scene. I watched her from across the room.
She didn't speak to me.
Didn't approach. Didn't steal the mic during speeches, or stage a fainting spell during the cake cutting. She just watched. And for once, she didn't try to twist the room around her gravity. Maybe she was tired. Or maybe she finally realized that no one was orbiting her anymore. I stood to give a toast. A real one. Not the kind interrupted by performative gasps or attention seizures. The crowd listened,
Clapped.
smiled, and she stayed seated. After the wedding, as I was walking to my car, I found her waiting by the exit. She looked smaller, older, like she'd finally seen the mirror she spent years running from. "I liked your speech," she said. I nodded. "Thanks." A pause. "I'm not asking to come back in," she said. "I just wanted to say, I know. I know what I was. What I did." I studied her face. For the first time, I didn't see the version of her I had to protect myself from. I saw a person learning to stand without a spotlight. "I'm not angry anymore," I said. "Good," she whispered. "You looked lighter up there." I smiled faintly. "I am." We stood in the quiet. No hugging. No crying. No apologies begging to be accepted. Just two women on opposite ends of a long, complicated history. "I wish we could have been something better," she said. "We still can," I replied. "Just separately." She nodded. And that was it. She walked to her car. I walked to mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't look back. Because healing isn't about making people pay. It's about making yourself free. And I was. Finally. At Christmas dinner, I knocked on the door with a bottle of wine in one hand and homemade dessert in the other. The porch smelled like cinnamon and cedar. Laughter spilled through the walls like warmth. And then the door swung open. It was my sister. Hair curled. Dress perfect. Eyes already sharp. She looked me up and down, then leaned against the doorframe. "We don't want you here," she said. "Go ruin someone else's holiday." Behind her, I saw the dining table. Candles flickering. Ham glistening. My mother pouring wine. My brother throwing his head back in laughter. No one looked at the door. No one noticed I hadn't come in. I stood there for a second, just long enough for my heart to break, without shattering. Then I nodded, stepped back onto the icy steps, and said, "Got it." I turned and walked away, the cold biting into my skin harder than her words did. "My name is Samantha, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever realized, all in one moment, that your family never saw you as one of them? That your seat at the table was always conditional? That love, in their house, came with a side of silence?" I got in my car, sat in the driveway for a moment, hands on the wheel, and then I drove away. 10 minutes later, I was halfway down Main Street when I heard it, my phone buzzing like it was on fire. "Dad." Again. "Dad." I picked up, and all I heard was him, yelling my name into the wind, like someone had just woken him from a lie. "Samantha, where are you? You need to come back, now." I pulled over, rolled down the window, let the cold slap my face and whispered,
"Why?"
"You all looked happy without me." What he said next changed everything. And by the time I turned the car around, I wasn't coming back as the forgotten daughter. I was coming back as the truth. The panic in his voice wasn't subtle. Not irritation. Not guilt.
Panic.
"Your sister told us you weren't coming," my dad said breathlessly. "She said you were spending Christmas with friends. That you declined the invite." "I texted Mom 3 days ago," I said, my voice flat. "I never saw it," he replied. "We thought you were just avoiding us again." Avoiding? I pulled up to the side of the road and stared at the phone like it had personally betrayed me. "She told you I wasn't coming, then slammed the door in my face when I did?" I asked. "She what?" he said, his voice rising. "She did what?" And that's when I realized. This wasn't just cruelty. It was strategy. My sister had rewritten the narrative before I even arrived. She planned the exile in advance, got them all warm, cozy, full, and ignorant before delivering the lie that I had ghosted them. Because what's more believable than the family screw-up not showing up? "Samantha," my dad said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know." I exhaled, slow and steady. "I know, Dad. But she did." I turned the car around. And this time, I wasn't driving back with cranberry pie and good intentions. I was driving back with receipts. Because while they ate and laughed and toasted without me, they didn't know I'd kept everything. The texts, the screenshots, the voicemails, even the audio from outside the door when she slammed it in my face and muttered, "That should do it." She'd played the long game. But I'd been quietly building the archive. When I walked back in, my dad met me at the door. Arms wide, eyes wide, face red. "I'm so sorry, baby," he whispered, hugging me like he'd just found something he never meant to lose. But over his shoulder, I saw her, my sister, standing frozen at the end of the hall. Champagne flute still in hand, smile cracking, color draining, because I wasn't supposed to come back. And I sure as hell wasn't supposed to come back with the truth. The room went still. Forks paused midair. My mother's eyes darted from me to my sister, like she was watching two versions of a memory collide. "Samantha," she said carefully, "we didn't think you were coming." "She told you that," I said calmly, peeling off my coat. "I never said it." My sister finally stepped forward, but her voice was too light, too late. "I just didn't want everyone getting their hopes up. You've missed a lot lately." "I've missed a lot," I repeated. "Or you've explained away a lot?" Dad turned, eyes narrowing. "Did you read her text or not?" My sister blinked.
I
might have forgotten." "Forgotten?" I said. "Like how you forgot to tell them I left a voicemail. Like how you forgot to open the gift I sent last year, but managed to post it on your Instagram anyway with your name on the tag."
gasps.
My cousin put down her glass. My mother looked like she'd been slapped. "I have the receipts," I said, pulling out my phone and tapping into the folder labeled Holiday Gaslight Chronicles. Yes, I had named it. "I didn't want this. I really didn't," I continued. "But I'm tired of being the villain in your stories." I hit play. And there it was. The voice memo. "My sister, at the door just hours ago. We don't want you here. Go ruin someone else's holiday." Then, her voice again, muttering as she turned away, "That should do it." The room collapsed into silence. My aunt covered her mouth. My brother stood slowly, like gravity had shifted. Even the kids stopped chewing. My sister took a step back. "Okay," she said, her voice shaking. "Maybe that wasn't fair. But you've always made things about you." "I haven't made anything," I cut in. "I've just stopped letting you erase me." Dad turned to her, his face thunder. "Out," he said. She blinked. "What?" "You heard me," he said. "Get out." "Dad."
Now.
She looked around the room, expecting someone, anyone, to defend her. No one moved. And for the first time in my life, my sister looked truly, completely alone. She left. No shoes. No jacket. No last word. And the second the door shut behind her, my mom said softly, "Why didn't we see it before?" I looked around the table. "I think deep down you did."
But now?
They couldn't unsee it. Dinner resumed, but it wasn't the same. The laughter came slower now. The wine glasses clinked quieter. And for once, the tension in the room didn't come from me being there. It came from the fact that they'd finally seen what I'd carried for years. After dessert, my father pulled me aside into the hallway, away from the whispers, away from the questions. He looked shaken, embarrassed, like a man standing in the wreckage of a home he thought was built on love and just realized was built on loyalty to the wrong daughter. "I failed you," he said. I swallowed hard. "You believed her." "I wanted to believe both of you," he admitted. "But she always took up more space. You were quieter." "No," I corrected him. "I was tired." He nodded slowly, tears glossing his eyes. "I should have asked why," he said. I didn't reply. What do you say when a lifetime of gaslighting is finally acknowledged? Instead, I let him sit in the truth. He hugged me tight.
Real.
Not performative. "Stay tonight," he said. "Please. Let's start fixing this." I nodded. But I knew this wasn't about starting. This was about stopping what never should have been allowed. That night, as I changed into borrowed pajamas and curled up in my childhood bedroom, I scrolled through the new group chat Dad had created. Family rebuild, no lies. One by one, relatives joined. No, sister. No fake apologies. Just honest faces. Quiet messages. My brother wrote, "We owe you more than a text." My cousin added, "She always dimmed you. Never again." And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a guest in my own bloodline. Downstairs, I heard Dad cleaning up the plates she left behind. And I smiled. Because this wasn't revenge. This was restoration. And my absence wasn't the threat. It was the wake-up call. The next morning, I found my sister's gift still under the tree. Wrapped in silver foil, ribbon tied perfectly, presentation over sincerity, as always. I picked it up and saw the tag. To Dad from both of us. Both of us. She tried to erase me even in her giving. I set it on the counter and made coffee. By noon, she'd started posting. Not an apology. Not even a denial. Just vague, sulky captions with snowflake emojis and phrases like, "Sometimes your absence is your power," and "letting go of toxicity this season." She was trying to reclaim the narrative again, flipping herself into the victim before anyone else could accuse her of being the villain. It might have worked before, but not this time. Not when the whole family had already seen the footage, heard her words, watched the truth knock the wind out of her lies. Dad refused to engage online. Instead, he called every family member personally that day, to tell them the truth, to say he was sorry, to say he finally saw it. And every single one of them said the same thing. We always had a feeling. We just didn't want to believe it. I spent that day quietly helping Mom put away the Christmas dishes. She didn't say much until she handed me a photo, one I hadn't seen in years. It was me at 12, holding a school award, face flushed with pride. Behind me, barely visible, was my sister, pretending to cry into her sleeve. Even then, "She's been doing this since you were a kid," Mom said softly. I nodded, and then I asked, "Why didn't you stop her?" She didn't answer for a long time. Then, because we mistook drama for pain, and silence for strength. I blinked. That one sentence cracked something in me. Because they hadn't just failed me, they'd admired my ability to endure. But endurance isn't love, and silence isn't peace. That night, I lit a candle and wrote a letter to my younger self. It started with, "You were never hard to love. They just didn't know how to hold you without guilt." And I ended it with, "Next year, you set the guest list. Because family isn't just who invites you in. It's who honors you when you show up." A few days after Christmas, the group thread exploded. Not with drama, but with silence. No one had heard from my sister. No guilt-lay selfies. No manipulative New Year, New Me posts. Just nothing. Until my brother sent a message. "She's at Aunt May's." Showed up crying. Said she's being erased from the family. The irony nearly knocked the wind out of me. Erased? That was my seat she'd stolen.
My voice she drowned.
My presence she edited out of holidays like a bad photograph. And now, when truth finally sat at the table, she screamed exile. But I didn't respond to the thread. I was done explaining who I was. Instead, I kept moving forward. I started planning a dinner at my place, a quiet New Year's gathering with people who had shown up for me when it counted. No one asked if she was invited. No one tiptoed around the question. The absence spoke for itself. On New Year's Eve, my house glowed with gold lights and calm laughter.
Dad brought wine.
Mom brought her favorite pie, the one she never made when my sister was around because she didn't like the smell. And I brought peace. Real peace. Not the kind that comes from keeping everyone comfortable. The kind that comes from choosing who gets access to you. Later that night, Dad stood up for a toast. "I've spent a long time defending what I didn't understand," he said, looking at me. "But this year, I'm starting over. And I want to thank the one person in this room who taught me how." He raised his glass toward me. "To Samantha. For setting the boundary we were too afraid to admit we needed." The room clinked glasses. I smiled, but inside I was shaking. Because that's what healing does. It doesn't roar. It trembles. Quietly. Boldly. It rewrites you one honest moment at a time. I never told my sister she couldn't come. But she didn't ask. And I didn't reach out. Because sometimes the deepest healing is not revenge or forgiveness. It's finally being okay with their silence. January came and went in quiet waves. No dramatic confrontations. No cryptic voicemails. Just absence. And for the first time in years, her silence wasn't a threat. It was relief. I found myself breathing easier, laughing louder, sleeping deeper. And then an email. No subject line. No signature. Just her name in the sender line. I almost deleted it. Almost. But curiosity has sharp teeth. I opened it. I know you think you won, but you don't know what it's like to feel invisible. You've always been the favorite. You just didn't notice because you were too busy pretending to be the victim. Someday, when they turn on you, don't come running to me. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just one last grasp at rewriting history. I stared at it. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I clicked reply. I used to want your love. Then I wanted your apology.
Now?
I don't need either. I don't need to win. I just needed to stop losing myself every time you needed to feel big. You can stay gone. I'll stay whole. I hit send, then blocked her. Not out of anger. Out of finality. Because healing doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like a clean inbox and a lighter chest. Later that week, I mailed out invites for a spring dinner I was hosting.
Small.
Meaningful. I wrote each name by hand. And this time, I didn't pause when I skipped hers. Because my table wasn't missing a chair. It had finally made room for me. I placed the last envelope in the mailbox and stood under the quiet sky. No grief. No guilt. Just this soft, solid truth. She left a hole, but I grew around it. Like roots. Like something finally grounded. Spring arrived like forgiveness. Slowly, then all at once. The air was warmer. The silence stayed peaceful. And I was no longer bracing for impact every time the phone buzzed. The dinner came and went. 12 people at my table. 12 people who saw me, heard me, held space without shrinking mine. After dessert, my dad stood again, this time more certain, more steady. He raised a glass. To the daughter who taught us that silence isn't strength, he said. To the woman who made a place for herself when none was offered.
There were no tears this time.
Only quiet, radiant pride. And as I looked around that table, faces glowing under string lights, laughter bouncing off the patio walls, I felt something I hadn't felt since childhood. Home. Not a place. Not a family name. But a feeling built from boundaries, self-respect, and finally, truth. My mother hugged me before she left. A real hug. One that didn't ask for anything back. And she whispered, "I'm proud of who you've become. I'm sorry we didn't make it easier for you to get here." I nodded, no longer needing more than that. I'd made it. By June, I heard my sister had moved. New city. New cycle. Still trying to spin stories without anyone left to cast in them.
But I didn't follow.
Didn't check her socials. Didn't care who she pretended to be next. Because I was busy living. Not proving. Not performing. Living. And on the first day of summer, I sat on my porch with coffee in one hand and sunlight on my skin, and I whispered the words I'd waited a lifetime to say. She can't hurt me anymore. And, even better, she can't rewrite me anymore. I wasn't the villain. I wasn't the forgotten. I wasn't the afterthought at the holiday table. I was the woman who stood at the door, heard hate, and chose truth anyway. I was the woman who turned a slammed door into an open life. I was the woman who came home to herself.